folks, we are sitting here with Michael LeMay, who was a candidate for West Bay North. And Michael has found himself in a little bit of a situation that he didn't know was coming. And so we're going to break it down and have him explain kind of, what played out, and hopefully answer any questions that his supporters might have had about what's going on. So first of all, Michael, let me go ahead and just welcome you. I think this is your first CMR interview, not under the best of circumstances, but let's go ahead and welcome you at any rate.
Hey, Sandra. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me and taking the time out, especially on this Sunday, beautiful Sunday. So, yeah, man, I'm just here to get it out there and let my people know and all my supporters to be on the same page, because I have nothing to hide, So it's just to bring it out.
All right, good stuff. So let's start with what happened. I know one day you called into the program and you indicated to us that you were contemplating running. I think at that point you had said you hadn't really decided where, but you wanted to run somewhere in West Bay. And then of course we saw you on nomination day. You came out and you did your thing. What happened after nomination day? So nomination day was last week, Monday already. Tell us kind of what happened. You went in, you took your 2 nominators, you had your witness, and then what happened after that?
Well, yeah, so, I did the full 100, did my part, come out, brought my money to put down my deposit and stuff, and brought my people in that want to nominate me, and went from there. And, being inside there, it felt good because I want to represent my people in Cayman, not only just West Bay North, but everyone, because that's how it should be. After that, I got a lady said to me when the team came in for, I think it was Andre's and them team, and they said, a lady said, Michael, you should feel intimidated. I said, for what? I don't. I said, it takes one man to take down an army. But anyway, so let me take a step back. So before election time, the nominating day, I had from one of the other parties 2 people. I'm just gonna leave where it's at, and approaching about sponsor, and you need help, you need backing. I told them no, I don't. I'm going in as an independent, and I choose to continue that way no matter what. And they're like, well, we can pay you and stuff, and we put you where we want you to run. I said no. Cayman is already corrupted, and I don't tend to start from here when I already promised people, listen, I'm here to help and to change, because that's what we need. And moving from there, when I did not accept no one's payouts, I think that was a threat to them. So moving from that, kind of started getting a sense, okay, they're kind of getting a little quiet, not asking no more questions. So I said, I'm going to see how this play out.
Interesting. All right. So you do your nomination day. Tell us what's required on nomination day other than $1,000. Like, is there any other documentation that you have to submit, or what is it on that form? Like, we saw people doing it, but tell us what that form says. Does it speak to like any police records, any sort of information? Like, what is it asking other than name, address, your $1,000? Anything else that you thought was, worth noting?
Well, from when I read through it, I could be wrong, because like I said, it was my first time doing it, so it's not a paper that I was known from before, but I don't remember seeing anything about what you would qualify for or police record. And it had nothing about police record or anything like that, which my record is clean. But during nomination time, before being nominated, you also have to declare anything you have, whatever's in your name, a company, a piece of land, where you're living, expenses, or your salary coming in. If you're your own owner, you don't have to put certain information on, but you have to declare basically everything.
Okay. So you did your what's called the declaration of interest. So you did that part before you went then on Monday to be nominated. Okay. All right. So on Tuesday, I was running to Miami to do a quick trip. And I saw once I landed that you were calling me, and I think I was still in the airport actually. And I saw you called a couple times, and you said, hey, call me, it's kind of urgent. So tell us now, this is where we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of it. Tell us exactly why you were calling me that day and what shocking news really you had to share.
Well, on that day, which you're right, because I was chasing you down to say, this should be some good news and also a quicker way to get my story out. The next day I was called, basically I was reached out by the election office, which saying, can you come in or can we talk because it's urgent? So I'm like, no, go ahead, I'm available. What's the situation? And right away they said to me, well, we found something. We dug up something, which is with the words that was used. We dug up something where we found that you would be disqualified. It didn't signify, said I was disqualified. It said you would be disqualified. So it's an option of to withdrawal, which is a better option. So it's a more telling me I should withdraw. Or, you can run, but we'll proceed to grand court, which the judge would then decide if you're qualified or disqualified. I said, okay, so what's the next step? Then they say, well, it's more to say, well, you would be disqualified if you do go to grand court. So it's a more like, okay, you're telling me I should disqualify or I'm going to be disqualified, or what is it more pertain as are you frightening me? Which I said, so what? So they say, okay, there was a case in 2017 where candidate X had a similar situation. I said, okay, no problem. So it boiled down to say, okay, you know what? Let me think about it and I'll call you back.
And what did they tell you was the reason why they were thinking you'd be disqualified?
Well, when I spoke to him, I said, well, okay, tell me what you dug up, since it was something you dug up. Say, well, it's only two things that can get you basically disqualified automatically and for life. Was basically either theft or it was forge. You forged something. So I said, okay, what charges did you find? He said, oh, we found something back where a theft case came up where you had to pay a $400 fine or 12 months imprisonment. I said, oh, I remember that case. I said, that was a case I fought that up to this day, they still couldn't present any evidence showing a video that I stole a phone from Funky Times, because I remember clear as day. Like I said, I don't have nothing to hide. And because it was me and my cousin walked into to Funky Times one day where I normally buy my cards and stuff because I need stuff, when you need spare stuff for your equipment. And two fellas walked out the same time we walked in, who I could remember to this day look identical to me, my cousin. The difference is, my cousin, he was bald, but they were saying that, oh, he had braids. I said, no. The officer who called me in the next day saying, oh, can you come to the police station? I said, for what? I said, just come. So when I got there, he said, well, I'm placing you under arrest. No, at the time, the police officer was my friend. So I went and said, all right, no problem. Let me see what it's about. And he kept on and on about this thing at Funk Time. I said, listen, you need to show me the videos, because you keep saying you have videos of me stealing a phone. I said, that's ridiculous. It went on to court and I kept fighting it. And they kept saying, well, we have videos to prove. Well, can I see the videos? And again, they were still not presented. And it went where my lawyer turned around and said, boy, let me just plead guilty and we move from there. I said, but pleading guilty sometimes don't make sense. But anyways, I ended up being charged. The judge ended up charging me $400 or 12 months imprisonment. I said, it still doesn't make sense. But again, at the time, it's something that I didn't pick up on to say, you know what, forget about it. Move on. Not knowing that something like this would affect me. But again, you do have people that go to prison being innocent, spend years on top of years, come out realizing they were innocent. And again, where it falls back in line now is me looking to the public eyes as, okay, he was dishonest. So again, you look at to say, what does dishonest means? Where do you stand in that part?
So when roughly was this case? How long ago?
It was probably, I want to say 25 years ago.
Okay, so quite a while, yeah. But I've had this conversation quite a few times on my show, and so I guess people still are not hearing it or whatever, because I've even given very, very specific examples about it. That unfortunately, any sort of, it could be a candy bar, any sort of what is categorized as dishonesty, because that's a term in the law, offense disqualifies you for life. So it could be examples are theft, obtaining property by deception, forgery. there's a whole slew of offenses that would fall under the dishonesty category. And I know when you called me, I obviously said, listen, because of that 2017 case, which I'm very familiar with because that was Mario Rankin, and Mario's argument was like, okay, whatever his situation was, it was when he was a teenager. It happened a long time ago as well. And now, it's been spent. He has a clean police record for all other purposes. But this is one of those sections, unfortunately, and I think it's good. I'm glad you're doing this interview. Thank you very much, because it's good to educate people about the real life implications of this type of thing, right? I'm surprised that your lawyer was advising you to just plead guilty to something that you were saying at the time that you adamantly did not do. And this is why even myself, my own perspective, people know I've been in court a lot. I only have one case that I've ever lost. And when I lost that case, there came a point in time, a couple of years, I appealed it right away. But for a couple of years, I was kind of thinking to myself, do I just leave this alone? Because, I have, at this stage in my life, I just feel like I've moved on. I've moved past that. What's the big deal? It's not that it's a dishonesty offense, but it's that's going to stay on my record forever. And that is something that people like to throw things in your face, and especially with me being in the media. I've seen it even as recently as a couple months ago. People are like, oh yeah, but remember, she got convicted for harassing Matthew Leslie. And I'm like, but that's bogus. No one's going to believe me when I say it's bogus as long as I have that conviction on my record. And that is the sort of final reason when I was thinking, do I continue with the appeal, that I said to myself, you know what? Whatever it's going to cost, whatever it requires, I'm going to continue with the appeal. Now, come to find out, it looks like the judges are going to throw out my conviction. So I'm going to walk away, hopefully May, knock on wood, with a completely clean record, and the government has to pay me my fine back that I had to pay them. So I think it's important that the general public knows that when you go to court, regardless of what it is, don't ever take a court hearing or appearance lightly. Like, take it like your life depended on it, especially if you didn't do it. Fight it. Don't go, oh, it's just $400. What's $400? Because that's now your reputation. And as you can see, all these years later, it's now coming back to haunt you. So I want to make it clear again, because I've talked about it on numerous occasions. There's a number of people in our community, unfortunately, that have dishonesty offenses. Some did it, some didn't do it, whatever the case may be. But that basically eliminates you for your entire life from ever running for public office. And poor Michael, he obviously didn't even remember anything about it. He didn't know about this section. If you're running for office, you've got to make sure that you know these things. Because I know, Michael, one of the questions you even asked me was in relation to other people who are now ministers and all sorts of stuff. And you're like, how can this person be an elected minister? They're in parliament. How did they get there, but I'm being excluded? So tell us a little bit about how you kind of feel generally about that as well.
Well, with that part of it, before I get to that, after I spoke with the election office, then I got an anonymous call after that. I'm not going to say he or she. I'm just going to say the person just called me out the blue. Listen, I'm calling you, but I'm not calling you. I said, okay, what's up? I said, listen, yeah, some of the parties came to offer you money. I said, yeah. I said, but I didn't want no sponsors and stuff, and I turned everything down. She said, well, that's your problem. I said, well, why is it a problem? She said, well, basically, it was more to tell us to dig up as far as we can to find something to disqualify you, because also they felt threatened because they realized when they checked a couple of things in West Bay North, you are very strong. Even though you were not out like everyone else, you are very much known, and you help so much people. You even got reward on Heroes Day when you was rewarded of putting back into the community, working with kids and stuff. And so you did a lot, but because you're not playing dirty, that's the problem. I said, okay. And that's when the questions came up saying, and I said, yeah, we have MPs. I said, come on. I said, you have Elvis and Kim Brack. The man sitting now smoking weed on live Facebook while running in politics, have 13 convictions. They found, how is this possible? And then you have, who we have again now? We have Kenneth Bryan. Kenneth Bryan, he spent time in juvenile prison. He was convicted of selling drugs. It's more like so we got drug lords on top of in the parliament. I'm not bashing out to anybody, but everybody knows, because the other Kenneth was also talking about it. You understand? So it's bringing it out where he even said himself, he thanked the people who gave him a chance. So, okay. So what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So what happened to the rest? And again, with this, it was a more not to say, okay, Michael, this is what we found. What would you like to do? No, it was more from the office, is more like, I think you should do this. Instead of giving me that more option to say, nah, let me fight this. Because the miracle could have happened, the judge looked at it and looked back and say, I think he's qualified. But then same time, again, now when I spoke to the law, she's like, I could be honest. It may backfire on me, but you do have judges' pockets inside of the politicians. So it's what it is, what we're living in this world today.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say, right, anyone who wants clarification, this is what I said to you, they need to go back to read that 2017 case, because that 2017 case looked at this specific area of disqualification. That was a year that quite a few people were challenged for different reasons. So we had people like Nicholas Acosta that was challenged, Alric Lindsay was challenged, Tara Rivers, I think that was the same year that she was challenged. Or was that 2013? But anyway, there's quite a few people getting challenged between 2013 election and the 2017 election. And this is why it's also important for the general population to know why those people were challenged, understand the details of it, and what the judges said, or what the judge said in the specific decision. So what they said with the dishonesty offense is that is a very strict interpretation of the law. There's no room for any sort of leeway. There's no room for discretion. As long as it is categorized as a dishonesty offense, which unfortunately theft is, that's what it is, there's no room for a judge to say otherwise. So unfortunately, in your case, the outcome would be that they would say that you were disqualified. And then you would have to spend money to try to fight. Once the process is, elections office would challenge it in grand court to say, okay, we believe he's disqualified, but the grand court actually has to make the ruling. And so then they would make the ruling. But I encourage people to go and look at what that case said. I might even dig it up myself this week by way of just general information and education. Because, Michael, there's a lot that happens in our community. People don't know. Sometimes they're not paying attention. That's one of the reasons why on CMR, on the Cold Hard Truth, I do a lot of bringing information to the general public, because I think the more knowledge you have, the more you understand things, just generally speaking, the better. Because I'm always surprised that as small as Cayman is, there's so many things that are going on here that, impact our lives, but we don't know anything about it until you find yourself in a situation. And then at that point, it's probably already too late. So I think that to be fair to the elections office, I think that they were advising you based on what they know that case says and the strict application of the law. And, you always obviously have the option to fight it, but it doesn't make any sense because you're throwing good money after a bad situation.
Well, again, with the election office, nothing against it. Because like I said, honestly, when Mr. Wesley called me, he was much more informative about it. And with the more information, which I still had to I asked him, I say, what do you think? So I still had an option. But with basically, again, with me just denying from other people the handouts, I just couldn't have it. And with, like you said in Cayman, with people when it comes to being educated about things, that's the problem in Cayman today. Because, for example, I'm gonna come off of the chat a little bit. It's just basically, we have the cruise port. Yes, we do need one. You have people that's against it, but when I spoke to a lot of people, because I'm on the port basically every day. I deal with tourists, I deal with everything. And with that part of it, I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people said, the reason for me voting no, because we don't know. Again, they don't know. When I spoke to Kenneth about it, he's like, well, the people needs to have their choice. Okay, no problem. What are their choice? Well, if they vote no, then they can't blame the government. I said, so if Father God answered everybody's prayers, we'll be in a mess. What does that mean? Because if I pray for you, hope for the best and good health and everything, while you're not around praying, hope you're dead or pray that you're dead or something. So you understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying government, you need to make that rational choice. So that's where now you have to offer the people something instead of pushing something in their face for them to vote yes or no. offer them something. They're not being educated in Cayman. That's the problem. But they rather take to start to the schools that you have the kids that are from an infant go straight up to about, I want to say, year 3. Kids are not developed. They should not be you should not be examining those kids because they're then now put in categories that they're already failing. So you're setting your children up to fail before time for them to pass. So from that first stage of, like I said, from being an infant into year 3, even up to year 4, that should be using their time for skills, planting, sewing. And when it comes to mechanics, that time should be where you teaching those kids those stuff. Then when you're into year 5, 6 and going up now you can start examination. But you doing that from early stage with the kids, again, you're setting your Caymanian people up to fail. And that's the problem you have today. And I'm very sorry, but especially the education part of Cayman, that they're not fixing. Because when schools say that, oh, we passed for satisfactory, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because that's not good. And that's why kids today are failing and can't get a job. They're even graduating with police records. You have police officers in school just for a school fight. They're going to the station, bailing them, then they got to go to court. They can't say it's not a lie. Because, it's not true. Because they did it to my daughter, which I fought for that, where she ended up not having no case or nothing. And the judge just said, you know what? You get off on a 6 months probation, where she did her probation time and moved on with her life. But again, Cayman, it's what they're doing inside there. It's all about money, and they're not paying attention to their people. Because I can guarantee you, after election, whoever, especially with that PPM or whoever gets in, let me see how much of them would be back out in public doing what they needs to do, or even what they should be even doing every month, even if it's a stand-up where people can come to meet you and say, listen, what more needs to be done in this area? Because even though I withdrawal, which I had no.
Let's get to.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's get to that part of it, because I'm sure people are wondering. Well, the elections office called you Tuesday. You spoke to me Tuesday evening. You spoke to your lawyer. Kind of what then happened. So they gave you, I guess, some time to think about it, and then did they call you back? Did you call them? Kind of how did it end after that?
Well, I called him back and told him, after I spoke to the lawyer, I told Mr. Wesley, I said, listen, I had a talk with the lawyer, so here what? I'm going to withdraw this time while I'm still strong. That I can believe in stronger for 4 years down the line to let my people know I still coming back. It's not the end of it. And the lawyer said, something, it's something that they're working on to change the constitution. So I'm going to go with that. And that's what I decided to withdraw. But still let my people know, even though I withdraw, but I'm not in there. But I will be making myself known and starting off in my area. Whoever needs help, I'm open. I'll be coming around and do what I have to do. Just because I'm not in there doesn't mean I can't come and help same way.
Well, that's very good. And maybe that's a good place to kind of wrap things up a little bit. So, Michael, we appreciate the interview. We appreciate your frank and honesty. And again, from the perspective, folks, of just knowing about this, like I said, I've mentioned it quite a few times because sometimes I get questions about specific individuals because someone might know that they have like a theft conviction or whatever. So the general rule is this: if you have a dishonesty conviction, it doesn't matter even if it was a suspended sentence. You were disqualified for life. It's a lifetime bar from running for public office. If it's any other offense, as long as you don't get sentenced to 12 months or more, you can still run. So he talked about Kenneth. He talked about he was only running, but anybody else that's been elected, they could have even a conviction for murder. As long as they didn't get a sentence of 12 months or more, then they can still run for office. So that's the general guidelines. Obviously, anybody who's running for political office needs to make sure that they're familiar with, number one, the Constitution, and number two, the elections law, because that's what really sets out all of the areas that you need to make sure that you're aware of what the requirements are. And it's something that you have to definitely be compliant with because you're going to be challenged. I mean, we've seen other people in the past who unfortunately have been challenged, and it's to be expected because they will do a full background check on you to see if you've ever been convicted of anything. So, Michael, we wish you the best, with your community work and service.
Thank you again, Sandra. And I will close this off with basically saying, Cayman, to be honest, don't be sell out by the dollar, because you can't think about today. You have to think about tomorrow, the future. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care if they like me or not after this, but to me, I was still registered in Bordentown East.
Okay.
Because I didn't realize about the date, about the switching. So when I went, it was in that time. So, but
All right. Of course, I'm going to encourage everybody to vote, because the only way you're going to see that change is if you go out there and make the change. Because if you don't vote, then it doesn't take much for someone to obviously win the election. And there's some races that with 5 candidates running, I've done the math, someone could get elected with 101 votes, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, they're splitting the votes so much. So folks, if you care about your country, I'm going to tell you, it's April the 30th is your day to demonstrate that you do care, but you got to vote sensibly. So you've got to,
you have to, if you have,
yeah, you've got to educate yourself.
Yeah, if you're gonna vote for the new faces that you think that will make a change, because putting the old ones in ain't gonna change nothing.
Yeah. You've got to go out there and educate yourself about what people are bringing to the table. So being new, as I've said, isn't a criteria, and it's not the only thing that you should be looking at. You need to see what have they done with their lives. Do they have any successes that they can point to say, look, I've accomplished this. I'm a hard worker. I'm this, I'm that. You know, there's certain traits that you want to make sure that you're looking for in your elected officials. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we've really gone wrong, is we're short-sighted. We get caught up in the election hoopla, and you vote for people based on a popularity contest, and you got to look at substance. But there you have it, folks. So continue to stay tuned. Obviously, CMR is your election headquarters. We've got you covered on candidate interviews, lots of information. Will be anything that comes our way, we'll obviously be sharing that with you. So make sure that you stay tuned to all of our platforms. We've got social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, obviously for the live show. Bobo is now on 103.1 FM. And also, you can catch our website. We now have the elections map up, CMR, CaymanMallRoad.com. We're doing polls, so please go and participate and vote in the poll questions. They're for every single district, as well as who you choose for premier and which party you favor. Go and participate and vote in all of those polls as well. Just taking a pulse of the community. So once again, we appreciate Michael sitting down with us. And Michael, good luck to you.
Thank you.